Hello and welcome back to another episode of Racing Roundup. Thank you so much as always for your continued support. Those of you who are still watching, it means the world to me that you are still watching, so thank you very much. I know I said last week that there wasn't going to be much racing going on this weekend, much to talk about, but I was wrong. It seems I was wrong. There is still plenty of action going on and lots of news to talk about. And in fact, we'll start off, as always, with Formula 1. They weren't racing this weekend, but some news coming out from McLaren, because McLaren on Sunday revealed a striking new livery, a one-off livery for the Monaco Grand Prix this coming weekend. They revealed a beautiful Gulf oil livery, a classic livery in the world of motorsport. I don't think it's ever been raced in Formula 1 though, so this is the first time I think for that. But a stunning livery for Monaco, increasing the partnership between McLaren and Gulf that was started last year, I believe, and got many fans talking about whether potentially having a throwback style weekend like in NASCAR and supercars, where for one weekend a year all the teams run retro liveries and classic liveries from their teams past, which would be amazing to see, especially at Monaco. Would maybe make up for the lack of racing in the actual race on Sunday because of the circuit, but yeah, that would be amazing to see nevertheless anyway, at any circuit. So hopefully something like that happens in the future, if this can kickstart that. The other piece of news from Formula 1 is that the Turkish Grand Prix race that was brought in to replace the cancelled Canadian Grand Prix has itself been cancelled thanks to the restrictions, the travel restrictions from the UK and from France. That race has been replaced by a second Austrian race at the Red Bull Ring, becoming a double-header like last year, the Styrian Grand Prix returning. And to accommodate for that, the French Grand Prix has been moved a week forward to create a triple header with France and then the two Austrian races. Speaking of calendar changes, MotoGP also has announced a second Austrian race at the Red Bull Ring. Very busy circuit, and it won't be the last time we mention the Red Bull Ring today as well. The Styrian Grand Prix returning for them to replace the cancelled Finnish Grand Prix that has been dropped off the calendar again for the second year in a row. But this weekend MotoGP was at Le Mans for the French Grand Prix. Fabio Quartararo on pole at his home race, but the race itself, a brilliant, stunning race to watch. The first flag-to-flag race since the Czech Republic Grand Prix in 2017. Flag-to-flag meaning, and I had to look this up, I didn't know at the time, meaning drivers were able to come in to change their bikes mid-race, because the race started in dry conditions for the first time in the whole weekend. I think the circuit was dry, and then the rain came down very heavily. The winds picked up as well, quite early, only a few laps into the race, and more to the conditions that we'll be seeing the rest of the weekend. And yeah, drivers or riders, I should say, for MotoGP were allowed to come in to change their bikes. So they would have a bike set up for dry conditions, which is what they started the race on, and then a bike set up for wet conditions, which is what they went to change to. So it's wet setups and wet tyres. Riders going on to a combination of medium wet tyres and soft wet tyres that will become crucial at the end of the race. But Marc Marquez, who was just, I think, his third or fourth race back since his recovery from his injury sustained last year that put him out for the whole season and the start of this season, was leading, and the conditions that are perfect for him. He really revels in these conditions, but an uncharacteristic mistake from him saw him high side of the final corner, crashing there, dropping him out of contention for the win, and then later crashing again, put him out of the race. An uncharacteristic, rare mistake from from Marquez, one of the greatest riders in the history of MotoGP. And then both Suzukis as well, the reigning champion Joan Mir and Alex Rins, both crashing. A terrible day for Suzuki, while both Aprilias retired, but for mechanical failures on each bike, so something not going well there for Aprilia. But I was talking about the soft tyres and the medium tyres for the wet compound coming at the end of the race. The soft tyre runners, Jack Miller and Fabio Quartararo, were struggling. Unsurprisingly, the tyres are just going off as the circuit dried back up. It was almost a dry circuit at the end of the race. And Johann Zarco was the one gaining on the medium tyres. He was able to pass Fabio Quartararo, wasn't able to catch Jack Miller, who produced a stunning drive. Despite having 2 long lap penalties for speeding in the pit lane, he went on to dominate, really. His second win of the season, back-to-back wins, which is astonishing considering how long it took between his first and second wins in MotoGP, but Miller really asserting himself as a championship contender now by winning the race for Ducati. Johann Zarco coming home in second for Pramac and Quartararo third. Home podiums for Zarco and Quartararo, they'll be happy with that. Shame it wasn't the win for them, but they'll be happy nevertheless. Which means in the championship, Quartararo still leads on 80 points for Monster Energy Yamaha, just 1 point now ahead of Francesco Bagnaia for Ducati, and Johann Zarco moves up into third for Pramac on 68 points. While in the team's championship, Ducati lead on 143 from Monster Energy Yamaha on 136, with Pramac up to third on 68 points. On 86 points even. IndyCar visited the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the first time in the month of May since 2019 for the 2021 GMR Grand Prix of Indianapolis. The race takes place on the Indy Road Course, and it was Romain Grosjean who, just his third race for IndyCar, took a miraculous and highly popular pole position at the Speedway. He won't be participating in the 500, so to be able to get that pole position at Indianapolis Road Course is incredible for him. And not just his third race back in IndyCar, but his third race back in motorsport since his horrible accident at Bahrain last year in Formula 1 that saw him engulfed in a massive fireball, became the man to walk out of fire. The Phoenix nicknames himself as, but an incredible proposition for him, and was dominating the race so much faster than everyone else, apart from one person, and that person was the young 20-year-old Dutchman Rinus VeeKay for Ed Carpenter Racing, who pulled off an amazing drive, outfoxed Grosjean on strategy and was just that bit faster than him on pace. The 2 drivers were so far ahead of the rest of the field though, it was quite astonishing. But an incredible race to watch. In IndyCar, that saw VeeKay come home to take his first victory in IndyCar. Funnily enough, exactly to the day, 5 years after a certain young 18-year-old, then Dutch driver, Max Verstappen, took his first victory in Formula 1 at the Spanish Grand Prix on the 15th of May 2016 and the 15th of May 2021. But VeeKay taking the victory from ahead of Romain Grosjean, the 2 way ahead of the rest of the field. Alex Palou coming home in third, which means in the championship, Scott Dixon still leads on 176 points from Alex Palou, his teammate, on 163, and Joseph Newgarden for Team Penske in third on 148. There was a bit of news before the weekend for IndyCar though, with the Honda Indy Toronto, their Canadian race on the streets of Toronto, a classic race in IndyCar and in motorsport, but that has been cancelled for the second year in a row thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. Over in Japan, the Japanese SuperFormula Championship visited Autopolis in a rain-soaked weekend. Well, more than rain-soaked, it was torrential conditions over at Autopolis, with the race being red flagged after those 13 laps and initially started under the safety car, there was doubts that the race would even go ahead thanks to the amount of fog rolling into the circuit. But the race did go ahead, and on pole position, for the first time, was Giuliano Alesi, son of Jean Alesi, one of the most popular Formula 1 drivers in the 90s. It was just his second race in SuperFormula. He's substituting for Kazuki Nakajima at Valentine Team Toms, after Nakajima's outings in the World Endurance Championship, having to quarantine from that a few weeks ago. But Alesi taking pole position and then winning the rain-shortened race, taking his first victory in the series as well as his first pole position in just his second race. The outcasted Formula 2 driver, that's a great result for him because he struggled in Formula 2 a bit, so to get that win in SuperFormula, a very strong field as well, yeah, great result for him. Nobuari Matsushita, also a Formula 2 outcast, finished second on the road for BMAX Racing, but was penalised after the race for a start line infringement. Was penalised 5 seconds, so he dropped to third, with Sene Sakaguchi taking his first podium in second place, which means in the championship, Tomoki Nojuri for Team Mugen still leads on 48 wins after taking 2 wins from 3 races. Ryo Hirakawa is second for Team Impel on 23 points, and Toshiki Oyu for Nakajima Racing is third on 21. In the world of NASCAR, they visited the Dover International Speedway for the Dryden 400, I think I've pronounced that right. Martin Truex Jr., one of the championship contenders, on pole position, but it was Kyle Larson who won the first 2 stages, but he did not win the overall race. That went to Alex Bowman, who became just the second driver to win more than one race this year, returning the number 48 to victory lane. It's just his 4th career win, and he led home a Hendrick Motorsport 1, 2, 3, 4. An incredible result there for Hendrick Motorsport. Alex Bowman coming home from Kyle Larson and the reigning champion Chase Elliott in third. Which means in the championship, Denny Hamlin, who still hasn't won a race this year, still leads on 574 points. But William Byron is now second on 473 points, just 1 point ahead of Martin Truex Jr. In the world of Rallycross, the RallyX Nordic series went to Holliers in Sweden for the 3rd and 4th round of the championship. The 3rd round taking place on the Thursday, and then the 4th round taking place across the weekend on the Saturday and the Sunday. It being the only round of the season that takes place at a World Championship circuit, it meant that several World Championship drivers from the World Rallycross Series were making one-off appearances, including the likes of Andreas Backrud, who was testing a electric-starred Ford Fiesta, Niklas Gronholm and Christian Zabo, who were racing the GRX Hyundais, Anton Markland, who was racing a Headstrong Motorsport Volkswagen Polo instead of his usual GTK Renault Megane. Before the weekend, however, after his victory in the first race of the season at Denmark, the Jamaican Fraser McConnell, and get this, got phone calls from both the Jamaican President, or Prime Minister, I don't know which one it is, and a certain sprinter, Usain Bolt. After his victory in Denmark, Fraser McConnell will be very much becoming a country ambassador for Jamaica in his rallycross outings. Hopefully he can find his way into the World Championship. He very much deserves the seat. Well, anyone can if they go up against and beat the 3-time reigning champion Johan Kristoffersson, unarguably the best rallycross driver ever. But yes, the race took place on the Thursday and then again during the weekend. On the Thursday it was a dry event, but Lars Anderson suffered a very big crash during one of the races. At the fastest part of the circuit, he made contact with someone, broke the steering presumably because it then went straight on into the banking, just clipping or just missing the end of the tyres straight into the banking. Suffered a very big impact. and a nasty looking roll, which was actually caught from the drone camera. An incredible shot from the drone camera going over Anderson's car as he rolled. The race wasn't red flagged, it should have been, because the marshals weren't able to get to Anderson until the end of the race a few laps later, only 4 to 6 laps, rallycross races, so short races, but still not great. He was taken off in an ambulance, but I believe he was okay, but still, to be Anderson stuck in that car after having suffered a very big incident, to then have to wait with cars flying past you. He was on the other side of the circuit, but still it's the fastest part of the circuit, and if someone goes off there, it could happen again. So yeah, crazy how that race wasn't red flags, but at the end of the day he was okay, so that's fine. Wasn't the only incident where the race should have been red flagged. Several rolls at the first corner in the RX2 Championship, the Supercar Lights. Much less sort of violent rolls. One of them was slightly a rough one, but nothing to worry about there. But both times the race wasn't red flagged either, so must be a Hollies thing, or that particular race director doesn't like red flagging the races, but still not very good. But in the Thursday, at the end of the day, in the final, it was Niklas Gronholm who came home to take the victory for GRX. In fact, the podium all being drivers who aren't doing the full championship, which is a bit ironic. Niklas Gronholm winning, Anton Markland second, and Christian Zaro third. And in the weekend final, Gronholm doubled up to take 2 victories out of 2, with Anton Markland, with Johan Kristoffersen coming home in second, and Fraser McConnell, his championship rival, coming home in third for Olsberg's MSE, which means in the championship it is Kristoffersen who leads on 100 points, from Fraser McConnell in second on 87 points, and Sondra Evjen in third for EKS JC, third on 83 points. A bit of World Endurance Championship news, where some drivers have been announced for some teams for some races. For Visi Competizione, they have announced Felipe Nasr, former Formula 1 driver, to join Ryan Cullen and Oliver Jarvis. They will race at Monza, the 6 Hours of Monza and the 24 Hours of Le Mans in their first outings in the LMP2 category as a team. Meanwhile, Glickenhaus have named who will race their first. Have named who will race in their first race in the championship in Hypercar, in their sole entry, the number 709, at the 8 Hours of Portimao in Portugal. They will be Ryan Briscoe, Romain Dumas and Richard Westbrook. There we go. Both Glickenhauses are set to race from Monza onwards, racing at Monza and Le Mans, just the one at Portugal, but then Glickenhaus have said that they probably won't race at the final 2 races after that in Fuji and Bahrain, owing to the fact that they simply don't have a market in either Japan or the Middle East, which is fair enough. This year is already a write-off year for them anyway, all about prepping the cars. It's a long-term project for them. They have said that they're focusing on future seasons, so it would make sense, but obviously in future seasons, if they're going to fight for a championship, they'll have to race where they haven't got a market. It's a niche supercar market and a supercar company, so don't blame them for this season, but in the future they'll have to do that and race in countries where they don't have a market. But Westbrook, Briscoe and Dumas racing for the next race in Portimao. The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the sister series to the World Endurance Championship, so to say, was racing at Mid-Ohio for their 3rd round of the season, the first of their non-endurance races, their 2 hour 40-minute races. And it was Ricky Taylor, driving for Wayne Taylor Racing in the final stint, who fended off Felipe Nasr, driving for Wellen Engineering, in a very tight finish in the DPI class, the top class in IMSA. A very tight on fuel for all the top drivers in the end, in the top category. Some drivers having to come in for fuel in the closing minutes of the race, including the Chip Ganassi car and I think the Meyer Shank racing car as well both came in, costing Chip Ganassi a chance for a third place finish, which would have been a remarkable result after Kevin Magnussen at the start of the race received a drive-through penalty for switching lanes before the start line at the start of the race. He was just trying to get the slipstream. The commentators were like, it's just a bit of a rookie mistake, lack of experience in endurance racing, something he'll learn from. But it was Wayne Taylor Racing in the number 10 Acura who won the race from Wellen Engineering's Cadillac in second, and Mazda, who started the race on pole, came home for third place with Oliver Jarvis and Harry Tincknell, which means in the championship Wayne Taylor Racing leads on 1,070 points. Mazda are second on 1,015, whilst JCD Mustang Sampling Racing are third with Log Duval and Tristan Vautier on 951 points. And last but not least, sticking with endurance racing, the European Le Mans Series took to the Red Bull Ring. I said we'll come back to the Red Bull Ring for the 4 hours of the Red Bull Ring in Austria. A race that was disrupted by a torrential downpour in the middle of the race. Started in dry conditions, finished in dry conditions, but huge downpour of rain causing several cars to go off in the middle of the 4-hour race. Team WRT came home to score their second victory from 2 races so far this season, with Robert Kubica, Louis Delatraz and Yiffy Yi. Great result for them. GGI Racing then locked up second and third with the number 26 car of Nick de Vries, Roman Rezunov and Franco Colapinto coming home in second, ahead of Roberto Merri, John Falb and Rui Andrade, we'll go with that. In LMP3, Cool Racing came home for their second win out of 2 races, with Matthew Bell, Nicolas Cruton and Nicolas Molini, with Euro International coming home in second, with Joey Alders, Chembol Kabasi and Andre Dromendavi, we'll go with that. And Graf Racing number 8 third, for driven by Eric Trullier, Sebastian Page and David Drew. And then in GTE, LMGTE even, Ferrari lockout on the podium with AF Course coming home for the win, driven by Emmanuel Collard, Francois Corrado and Alessio Rivera. Spirit of Race second, driven by Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin and David Perrell, and Iron Lynx number 80 in third, driven by Matteo Cressoni, Miguel Molina and Rino Mastronardi. Lots of difficult names to pronounce. Which means in the championship for LMP2, Team WRT obviously lead on 50 points after taking 2 wins from 2 races. G-Drive Racing number 26 are second with 31 points, and United Autosports joint on points with the number 25. G-Drive Racing in third on 21 points. In LMP3, Cool Racing lead on 50 points after taking 2 victories. Inter Europol competition are second on 27 points, whilst Euro International are third on 18.5 points. And in GTE, Iron Lynx number 80 lead on 40 points, from Spirit of Race in second on 33, and WeatherTech Racing Porsche are third on 27 points. And that is it for this week's edition of Racing Roundup. Next weekend is the big one in Formula 1, the Monaco Grand Prix, along with all the support races, Formula 2 racing around the streets of Monaco. Can't wait for that. It will be the first Monaco Grand Prix since 2019 after it was cancelled last year because of the pandemic, so really looking forward to that. Along with lots of other racing, I'm sure, as well going on. But that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your week even. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.